I have been in some rooms. I made it a point at some part of my life to be in the room where it happened, more than once in my life. I was in the room at Unitarian Universalist General Assembly. That's when thousands of Unitarian Universalists gather in one city, all from across the country, in a convention center. And I was there in June of 2008 when Van Jones spoke to the 6,000 UUs gathered there in that convention center in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. You know who Van Jones is? Okay. But this was not the Van Jones of today, the one who you see on CNN. This was a man who had been a part of youth movements and the Ella Baker Center for Human Rights in Oakland, California. He met us at the intersection of environmentalism and racial and economic justice. He was singularly focused on something that I had never heard about before until that day. He called it the Green New Deal. He told us with great effect, the chief moral obligation of the 21st century is to build the green economy that is strong enough to lift people out of poverty. See, these populations, he said, that were locked out of the last century's polluting economy must now be centered by this century's green economy. He had worked with poor communities. He had worked with communities of color. He had worked with formerly incarcerated youth and adults by putting them to work in environmental cleanup jobs. He had worked on Oakland's Green Job Corps proposal in which the city allocated funds for green jobs, and he had successfully worked to pass the Green Jobs Act of 2007, authorizing millions of dollars in funding to train thousands of Californians for what were being called green-collar jobs. He embodied on this day in 2008 not despair, but hope, like I had never seen about the possibilities. On that evening, Van Jones was electrifying. I wish you could have been there. He was hilarious, he was energizing, youthful, and he had a specific vision for a better future for our nation. He talked about manufacturing jobs and infrastructure, bringing unions into the environmental job sector. He was setting a tone for national momentum, and he was speaking about the fact that it looked like change was about to break out. Now, this was June 2008. Prepare to govern, he said. A green wave, he pointed out, can lift all boats. Eco-populism can save the polar bear, Pookie on the corner, and the president. It's time, he said, to reconnect with love and enthusiasm. Martin Luther King's speech was not, I have a complaint. It was not, I have a critique, or I have a long list of issues. We need beautiful dreams, he said. The country isn't looking for critique, but inspiration to be our best self. In a green economy, you don't count what you spend, you count what you save. Imagine. The last thing he said was, we will do more than take America back. We will take America forward. What happened next on that night is that he ran out into the audience and he began hugging everyone. Like 6,000 Unitarian Universalists who were just like ready for this. And somehow he ended up in the middle of a huge crowd of youth, I mean high schoolers. And they were all cheering together. They were like pumping their fists and jumping up and down. And they were hugging him and they were hugging each other. You can see all this. This is the Ware lecture from 2008 in the UUA website. And I remember in that moment, that whole convention center being filled with what I would call wild hope. Wild hope. It was my first encounter with this big idea, this concept of a green manufacturing sector, environmental justice codified in our national and state budgets, a future for all of us that would uplift those who needed it the most. We could finally heal from the climate and infrastructure disaster of Hurricane Katrina. We could finally heal from the horrific war in Iraq and Afghanistan if we could implement that Green New Deal. If. I guess that plan didn't have the votes. I guess the senators and the congresspeople were too deep in the pockets of coal and oil drilling and fracking. I guess the forces of greed were greater than the forces of progress, which required not just individual sacrifice, not really that, but actually corporate ingenuity and divestment and then reinvestment in something better for the rest of us. And Van Jones, well, he grew up too. He got rich. I suspect he remains more progressive and more radical than he sounds on TV, but I don't hear that much from him anymore about the Green New Deal, not like then. Although the plan did make some gains under the Biden administration, I don't want to discount that. But I was in that room where it happened. Do you remember the first time you heard of a big, capital B, capital I, big idea? One that could actually work, that could take hold in the heart of our nation, that could revive us all. I wish I was in that room when 16-year-old Greta Thunberg spoke to the United Nations in 2019. I wanted to give you a sense of what it must have been like to be in that room, listening to that youth excoriate them. How dare you? Raging, furiously attacking their morals, their character, anything she could grab a hold of to make her desperate and defining point, which was that as leaders, they had failed her, and they had failed her generation already, and they are continuing to do so. She understood the prophetic voice that lives within each of us, not just some of us, the one that speaks out of moral injury, and then moral outrage, and finally with moral courage, knowing that the stakes of speaking out with rage and fury and authenticity are far lower than the stakes of staying silent. If the leaders are going to wreak havoc on our planet, then we have nothing to lose when we open our mouths to speak against their despoilation of the earth. And even less to lose when we speak a healthier planet into being. See, that's what I loved about the Van Jones speech. It's like, this is something else. This is something new that we can believe in. If we have the platform to defend our planet, we must use it. And my friends, all of us have that platform in one way or another. Now, I imagine being in that room with Greta Thunberg, erupting with fury. In fact, tears were streaming down her face as she spoke in holy, thunderous rage at the ones who have the power to save our earth. How exhausted she sounded for being only 16. But she was exhausted on behalf of the generations before her. She was exhausted on behalf of all the climate activists who have spoken prophetically and have had their words, well, land like an Acme anvil at the feet of corporations who pillage our forests for paper, who pillage our land for natural gas, our oceans for oil, and whose only and ultimate concern is not for the finite resources of the earth from which they are drained, but just their bottom line. Now, while I mention individuals in particular rooms or particular moments, the real truth of earth activism is this. There is no single room where it happens, no single savior, no single speaker, nor scientist, nor innovator who can save us all. So we can't wait. It's not a moment. I don't know why I'm quoting Hamilton so much today. It's a movement. It's not a moment, it's a movement. When seeking the dawning of the new day, we must look always to the sunrise. The Sunrise Movement is a youth-led movement that has resurrected the Green New Deal and is transforming a new national conversation. So pay attention. Check out their website and then follow their lead. See, this group, this Sunrise Movement, they understand the Earth's enemy Fossil fuels coalition of white supremacists, oligarchs, and corporate executives who are holding our democracy hostage. They are changing their playbook all the time. This coalition has been playing the long game. We can see it now, taking over every level of our government so they can force their life-threatening agenda on all of us. And they're not going down with a fight. We see that. From the fossil fuel corporations clawing to get back by furiously raising gas prices on working people, to this new class of billionaires that's emerging, trying to get rich from all this transition, we are facing new attacks from new angles. And the Sunrise Movement says, just as our world changes, we must change our strategies too. So if we can build a movement of thousands of organizers across race and class and generation, then we can overpower the dirty money and the corporations that currently have a stranglehold on our politicians by voting them out and voting better people in. And this group, this Sunrise Movement, dreams of bringing a fully funded Green New Deal to every corner of America, they say. Day by day, door to door, hand in hand with our neighbors, we will sow the seeds of a Green New Deal from the bottom up, just like a garden grows. I love the climate activists, the relentless ones, the ones who shout into the void, the ones who are so filled with foreboding they cannot temper their words nor their temper. They're not worried about being liked. They are saving something, all of us. I love the ones who plant beautiful native gardens where there was only turf before, who raise funds for rain barrels to harvest rain to water the garden, but then decide that the rain barrels could also be beautiful. And so they engage the artists. And then the artists come, and they are students from a nearby school, and most of them have never heard of Unitarian Universalism before, and now new connections are being made. I'm just telling the story about the rain barrels, if you haven't picked that up. But that's what happened this week. Just this week, all of those things happened. These connections. See, I love these climate activists because they defend the forest like it is their child, their lover, or their own body. They understand our mutuality, the pull on the web, and the rupture when it is torn asunder through human acts of environmental degradation. They are relentless. They were in my inbox all week long, don't you worry. They know that this is about transformation, total change. The self, changing of the self. Can you become relentlessly devoted to small gains in your own life? Can you? That means, I think, driving less or ride sharing, and it means using less new items, just having less stuff, more experiences, connect with the natural world, don't acquire more things. I don't know how many of you have joined an Amazon boycott for the past few months, but it has felt fabulous in our house. We just have less accumulation of things. It's great. Reducing your food waste. There was just an article about how much food gets wasted in America. Making yourself just a little bit lighter on the earth, and then increasing your joy of nature, finding the abundance of life, not in the acquisition of things, but in the abundance of the natural world and all that it has to offer you, if you can just connect with it. Then there's changing the community, transforming the rooms where it happens in our local government. I hope you understand in 2025 that the time for sitting out local elections for positions you don't fully understand is over. That time is over, okay? I've been guilty of it too, but that's in the past. This is an election season right now for the Public Service Commissioner. Did you know that? The Public Service Commissioner primary vote is this June. It is very critical. The current Public Service Commission members have ignored thousands of comments by constituents over the last few years expressing the need for lower Georgia power bills and more renewable energy. The vast majority of people in our county and our region support renewable energy. And we can act at the state level even though the federal level looks difficult right now. In fact, this is exactly how we sow the seeds of change from the bottom up. Be a relentless force for earth justice out in the community, because this is where we have the most power. When we are connected to movements that change the narrative for more people, our neighbors, people we can see, that celebrate the small gains together, that put new people in office who are less corrupted by greed and who are responsible to their constituents' voices. And finally, look to the sunrise. The youth are going to give you your marching orders, if you will receive them. This climate revolution will be youth-led. It will be youth action, so look to the sunrise. The Sunrise Movement's mission is so beautiful and simple. We believe everyone should have access to clear air and water, full pantries of food, affordable housing, free public transportation, good and meaningful jobs, vibrant community centers, and lives filled with joy. That's their mission. We are building a movement to make that happen, so join that Sunrise Movement. This vision launched in my life back in 2008. This Green New Deal that I had not yet heard of, well, it's back, or probably it never left. It is now taking a new shape and a stronger hold. It is building momentum across the nation in these movements. Whether you've heard of them or not, I want you to know now they are happening all around us. Reviving this idea to revive our economy, to revive our union jobs, and then to revive our earth. The idea is so good, it's scary. It is terrifying to the billionaires who profit from the fossil fuel industry. It is terrifying to the status quo. That's why it's an idea that is sticking around, and it needs your voice to birth it into being. The climate activists you know and love, well, they're sitting right next to you right now. They are our climate action team at UUCA. They are relentless and unstoppable. They will connect you to the movement. They will tell you how to begin. So look always to the sunrise and let the new day dawn.